This is a cute little set of bunny stickers made for my daughter. This is printed on sticker paper. It's really basic, obviously it's only basic sticker paper. And I made these using a stamping method, and I'm going to show you how to do it. These ones have been altered using Canva, but I'm going to show you step by step how I did that. This is the original artwork, and you can see it's sort of in iridescent ink, which is why I think you've got that variation in shade there, because I scanned these in. But this is the original, and I'm going to show you how I created that from basically little scraps of card. So if that is interesting to you, then keep watching and I'll show you how I did it. This is the plate that I made, and I used just some board. This is a recycled board, craft board, that is like a mount board. It's really stiff and it's quite thick, but you could get the same effect if you laid up several pieces of card. And I have lots of scraps of this because I make books in my business, and I use these for the covers, the front and back covers. So I have a lot of this as scrap, and I used these to form a bottom plate, and then I just stuck some pieces of cut card on the top. Now I just freestyled this and basically just cut out a few bits and saw which shape I wanted to form. And this is a bunny because my daughter loves bunnies, and this is the print that made. So I made a couple in different colours, and obviously the one in silver that I made, and then I embellished that a little bit further just by using a fine liner and some watercolour pencils, and then just added a bit of water onto there just to smudge that around a little bit. So that's how I did that, the extra detail on that. But this is the basic print that I got as a result of making this plate. Now, like I say, I just used a piece of card, piece of board, so it's quite thick. It's about 1.4 mil thick, I think. You can see it's quite thick. I don't know whether you could use cereal packets, if you used a couple of cereal packets laid together, or the back of a notebook possibly, because that's quite thick as well. That grey board is quite thick. I think you could easily use that as well, and that just makes a really nice stiff surface to layer your cut pieces on. Now the next one I'm going to do is this little cat design here, and again all I did was just get some pieces of the board and cut out some little shapes, and then what I'm going to do is stick them on. Originally I used matte gel medium to stick them down, but I found it worked just as well with some acrylic glue, and I've got some of that somewhere. And I dare say you could use just normal white PVA, so anything really, just to stick it down so it stays in place. So what I'm going to do now is just take my little pieces and I'm going to stick them down onto my card base, onto my board base. And I believe that this process, this particular plate, is called a Collagraph plate. I'm not a printing expert. I've never really done any printing other than gel press printing or using my actual printer. But I am familiar with embossing, and I do that quite a lot, and I do a lot of die cutting as well. So I do that a lot, and I do have die cutting machines, and that's what made me think, you know, I wonder whether I could use my die cutting machine as a roller press and do some printmaking with it, because I've sort of got into embossing recently. So that's what started me off on this journey. And fantastic, yes, you can use a die cutting machine to add pressure to your printing plate and press the image into your paper or card. And that's what led to my end result. It worked absolutely beautifully, and I was so pleased. Now I did watch a couple of videos quite a while ago about this, about how to do Collagraph printing, the actual genuine thing, and that's why I was thinking, oh, I wonder what I could use to do that. And so a couple of the, well, certainly one of the techniques that I picked up, one of the little tips that I picked up was from another video. I cannot for the life of me remember what the name of that creator was. If I can find that information, I will do. But it was quite a long time ago that I found that video and watched that video. And this has been sort of sat parked in one of my ideas parks, waiting to be enjoyed. And I'm so glad that I actually eventually got round to doing it, because it was so much fun, and I can't explain the joy when I realised it would work for me and the image that I got. So I'm really pleased with the way that it turned out, and I'm ever so pleased I gave it a go. So thank you to that YouTuber for the tips on how to do Collagraph printing. I think this may be called relief printing. I watched a couple of videos as well at the same time with a different style of printing, which I think was, I can't remember what that one was called now, intaglio or something, where you scratch your design on a plate and use a similar press to get the effect, but you've got but it's a much thinner plate and the design is actually scratched into it. But I'm going to do this one first. We're going to give this one a go first. Now I have actually got some glue on here. Now if I send that straight through with some ink on, that could well act as a resist, because it's like a barrier, like a film on top, and that may mean that the ink doesn't sit very well on that piece, so I may end up with a little bit of a less inked part there. So what I could do is just use a little bit of water perhaps. See if this makes any difference. Got my paint items here, so see if I can remove it with a little bit of water, and if not, then it's all going to add to the effect, isn't it? And I would imagine you could scratch into this surface, which I haven't tried yet, but you could probably scratch into this surface and remove parts and get lots of lovely texture and get even more effect on here. So I'm going to pop the little tail that side. And I would imagine then also, if you used an acrylic sealant in different parts, you could just, like by accident I did that there, but you could remove some areas of printing, or which areas would print, and have that relief printing method, so that some areas showed as patterns, some block colours. Anyway, I'm waffling on, so let's just get this down and then I'll show you what I did next. So this is supposed to be a cat. Admittedly, it's not a very good cat, as in you probably don't see many of these walking down the street or sitting in your neighbour's garden. So it's just a stylised cat, just using basic shapes. But I think, personally, I think this sort of thing comes out really well because it's so stylised. You're not really expecting it to look, it's not supposed to be accurate, is it? That's the whole point. It's just, it's a fun, it's a character. It's an almost illustrated, childlike image, and that's what I'm going for. That's my personal style. So if you don't like that, obviously, you know, you might want to make something slightly more accurate. I really love folk art style, and I was certainly going to have a go at making some folk art style images as well. But at the moment, I'm going to go with some childlike sort of things that you might see in a kid's storybook almost, and we'll see how that works. So I'm going to let that dry properly, and then I'll ink it up and I'll show you over on the roller machine how I press that through, and I'll give you the tip that I got from that YouTube video, which was about wetting your paper before you do this. So I'm over here on my little makeshift preparation area, and I'm using this card, which is classed as an all media card, so you can use it for watercolour, acrylics, I don't know, oil. I don't use oil, I hate the smell of it. And I've got this lovely card. It's slightly textured, I don't know whether you can see that, but it's lovely, it's robust. I use it for the majority of my work. I absolutely love it because it's quite nice and thick, but it does impress really well. It embosses extremely well, and I use this all the time. So what I'm going to do, I've just filled this little A5 container here with some water, fresh water, and all I do is just pop my little sheets of A5. Now obviously if I was making a bigger one, I would use a bigger tray. Actually I probably would get away with using a small piece of paper, wouldn't I, because I think I've used A6, a little A6 printing plate, but I'm going to go with the A5 now because that's what I've got cut in front of me just to demonstrate. And I'm just soaking that paper, making sure that the water's going into it. And this is going to make it a little bit more supple, so when it goes through the machine it embosses, and it takes that ink really well. Now I'm not sure whether I have to do this, but this is the little tip that I picked up from the other YouTubers, so I'm doing it. Now while that's in there for a moment, I'll just show you this. This is the lid of the pot that I'm using. Actually this might be the base and the other might be the lid, and I've just got some old napkins that came with my daughter's meal the other day when she had some noodles, and I've just put those in the bottom of this tray. And then I'm going to take out my paper here, just give it a bit of a shake, and then I'm going to just pop it into this tray, and that's going to soak up some of that water, and I'm just going to dab it to make sure that the majority of the water comes out. And when I've got all the drips off, because I don't want the drips on, I'm just going to set it aside. And if I was doing a few of these, obviously I'd just do them one by one and just leave them to settle for a moment. So there we go. So that's taken off the majority of the water, but I can feel that it's a little bit more I was going to say fluid, but I think you understand where I'm coming from. So that's what we've got there. So I'm just going to pop that there on my little bit of paper, and I'll take you over to the roller machine so you can see what I'm using there. I have a Sizzix Big Shot Pro because I do a lot of die cutting, a lot less these days, but I needed a wide mouth to get some very large dies in over the years, so that's why I've got this. It's my second one actually that I've had. I actually managed to break when I strained it using a die and too many shim pads in there. So this is my second one, but this one is absolutely brilliant. It's a real workhorse. I mean, I can't overestimate how much I have used it over the years, so it's been absolutely brilliant. But you could use any, I think, any die cutting machine that will take the thickness of your printing plate. Now, because mine is a really thick opening, quite a deep opening there, you can see the rollers are under here, and there's quite a lot of space. I'm having to use this little platform. So if you've got one of these, if you've got, for example, a Big Shot Pro or something like that, or a Big Shot, you'll probably have one of these multi-purpose platforms with it. Now, I can't say, you know, do this at home with your particular machine. You know, if you do something and you break it, that's on you. But this is what is working for me. So what I did was remove the cutting plates, and I used, as you can see, that goes through now. And I used this platform to make a thick enough sandwich for my press, for my plate, my Collagraph plate. So I'm going to get all that together and then we're going to roll it through. But what you need to do really is experiment with depths, so you know how many layers you need to put in to make sure you've got the right amount of pressure. If you're used to die cutting, if you've got one of these die cutting machines, chances are you know exactly what I'm talking about. These are the inks that I'm using because it's what I've got. You can get proper printing ink and you can then use a brayer and add that on using a brayer, and I am considering doing that, but at the moment this is what I've got, so I'm using what I've got, and I've got quite a few of these, so this is what I'm going to do. Now I really like the silver for the bunny and the gold for the bunny. I thought they looked absolutely fantastic. I haven't used the pink yet, so I might try that next. So that's called Pearlescent Poppy, so I think I might try that next. But I think you can use any ink really that doesn't dry immediately, because we're going to be rolling it through quite quickly. So what I'm going to do is just ink it up just like you would a normal stamp, and if you're a crafter you'll know exactly what I mean. So I'm basically just inking it up, not in a particularly professional way, but I just want to get a nice layer of ink on there. I think anybody who maybe does professional printmaking, if they saw this, would be literally horrified, but I'm using what I've got and I'm really excited to do that because I just was so happy with the results I got before. Now I'm doing the whole image, but obviously you could build this up. I think that's the whole point, isn't it? You can literally do different layers, and originally I did this one here where I did different plates and then I ran it through different times. So originally I did the dress using black ink, then I went through with the gold, and then I went through with the pink. So I did use the pink, so that's the colour that's going to come out, and I did it in 3 goes. So you could do 3 different plates. You could make one with the ears on, one with the head on, one with the dress on, and do it in 3 different goes or several different goes. Or you could just, if you're careful, you could literally paint on the bits that you want to do and roll it through, as long as you use, I think they call it a registration, so you know that it's going to accurately roll through in the same place every time. So there we go, I've got that inked up, and we'll take it over to the machine again. So I've got the plate on the machine, and I'm just going to pop my sheet of dampened paper on there, and then I'm going to make a little sandwich. So I'm putting a little bit of extra card on there, and we're going to see. And my top cutting plate, which would normally be used for cutting. Let's see if that goes through without too much strain. Yeah, that seems okay. So now I'm going to just roll it through. Hope I didn't move that. Ooh, too much. No, I think that's too thick. So I think I might have to remove that lower cutting plate. I think that's what I've done wrong. So I've got my sandwich back. I've removed that lower cutting plate, and we're going to see if this rollers through okay. So you've got to be really careful not to strain your machine. I don't have my, oh, I'm gonna have to put this down because I can't do it with this in my hand. Okay, so I got it started, and now it will roll through. So that has just rolled through there with the right amount of pressure. I'm going to take that top cutting plate off. I hope I didn't move it too much when I was trying to get that through. It's difficult doing it on, there we go. So that has printed, but obviously I didn't put as much ink on there, and it probably dried because I was rabbiting away to you. But that has, you can see that has actually impressed. It's not as good as the first one that I did, so I'm going to ink that up with some juicier ink, and I'm going to go again, and let's see what I get the next time. So this time I'm going to add a bit more juicy ink and see how that goes. Oh no, let's put, so we're going to go with the white, and then I'm going to mix, because I don't want it to be too dark. There's the brown. Hopefully this will make it flow nicely. So these are just re-inkers that I'm using. Hopefully that will keep it nice and moist. Now obviously the professional inks you get for printmaking, they actually do stay damp longer, so they're great for that. So like I say, I may have to at some point get some, but for now I'm just going with what I've got. Now I don't know whether that, I think that may end up impressing. So I'm just going to try and wipe some of that away and we'll see. Because I don't really want that. Now if you use a brayer, in theory you're not going to get it on the plate itself because it just skims over the surface. And this could make an awful mess, couldn't it? But the fun thing is it's experimentation, and it's just such a lot of fun when you find a technique that you absolutely love and you think, oh my gosh, I can think of so many things I could do with that. Now I can't get that out with the tissue, so I'm going to try and just scrape a little bit of that out. Well, it's white, so I probably won't really notice it. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes out. So I've wiped most of that away, and that will probably dry quicker around it. So let's take it over to the machine and see what we get. And this time I cut myself a smaller piece of card, and I've done the same thing soaking it. And I'm going to make the same sandwich, and I'm going to roller that through. So I'm going to put you down. And that's been rolled through, and let's see. Oh, this has worked. And it has. Look at that, how fabulous. This one's definitely a bit rougher than the first ones I did using the metallics, but yeah, you can see there in between the legs, the white has caused a bit of distraction there. But how cool is that? And it's slightly embossed it as well as printing it, and I absolutely love this. So it's a fantastic way of making stamped impressions that are completely your own. I absolutely love that. New printmaking technique for me, completely. So I'm just really pleased with that, and I'll show you what I do with it later, because I'll probably doodle on the top of this and turn that into stickers as well. So thanks for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, give me a thumbs up, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. Bye. I had to come back to show you the next one I did. I added some silver over the top of the plate that had the brown and white on, and my goodness, how beautiful that has come out. It's so much crisper, so I'm really pleased with that. Oh, absolutely love it. Let me know what you think in the comments, and whether you'd try it yourself, and whether you've even got one of these roller die cutter machines. I would imagine you could do something similar with a pasta machine, or something similar like that, and whether you could do it by just adding pressure with books or things like that. But I think the softness of the paper makes a difference, and I might just experiment a little bit with some dry paper and see what happens, but I'm just sticking with what the professionals told me. So thanks for joining me. Take care. Bye.